All right, shalom, shalom. And first and foremost, I want to give all praises, all honor, all glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakodash. All right, double honors to the apostles, elders at Great Millstone. Shalom to you, Akim, pushing the work of truth and sincerity. All right, so let me see something, because there's a lot of background noise. All right, and I want to say double honors to the apostles, or give double honors to the apostles, elders at Great Millstone. All right, and you, Akim, sincerity, who are doing the work in truth and sincerity, bringing forth the testimony of our Lord Yahweh Shai. So let me try something really quick, and Lord willing, brothers can hear me. So slacking, because I got to use headphones. They're doing work on the house. So let's see here. All right. Let's see. Let's see. All right. Let's see if I can hear me good. Let's see. All right. Let's see if I can hear me good. It's still background noise, so the headphones ain't doing much. But yeah, so hey, let's kind of get into it. The name of this lesson is "The Sons of the Wicked." All right, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, and I did a search in ChatGPT, okay, to kind of help prove the point and to lay the foundation of this lesson. The scriptures clearly point to individuals in this world, all right, who are going to be playing a major role in society, all right, in the latter times, okay. And of course we have the classifications of men, all right. You have the sons of men, which are pretty much the heathen nations, the regular, as they would be the regular Joe Schmo, all right. And then you have the sons of God, all right, which are the Israelites, all right, the chosen of the Lord, okay. And then you have the sons of the wicked, okay. All right, and these three, all right, classification of men, all right, abide in this world. Hey, Shalom, brother. They abide in this world, all right. And our point, or one of the major things that we do, all right, kind of point out, who the wicked, who the sons of God, and the sons of men are, all right. And we let you know what's going to happen, all right. We give you the finality of all things, all right, because we're the prophets, we're the men of the Lord, okay. And the Lord has a determination for what he wants to do with this planet, okay. But it's quite clear who the sons of the wicked is, all right. They're being revealed every day. And I just heard, a reprobate, a guy from One Body, all right, out there in Texas, say that we ain't supposed to be teaching about the so-called white man, all right, which is wildly absurd, okay, because the scriptures tell us that we're going to be revealing him, all right, or revealing the wicked in his time, okay. And so let me get that really quick, all right. And I'm kind of just going in the spirit with this, all right. And Lord willing, this is edifying. Precepts is coming to me as I go along with more information, kind of looking up. So 2 Thessalonians 2, all right, I'll start at 7. It says, "For the mystery of iniquity doth already work," all right. And Paul was talking about who an iniquitous nation at his time, all right, which were the Edomites, all right, who ruled the Roman Empire, right. It says, "Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way," all right. And who is letting? All right, who's doing the letting? Of course, the Most High Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, okay, until he be taken out of the way, because everybody is serving a purpose here on earth, all right. And that's the duality. All right. That's the Lord. That's the Lord. All right. And his you know, how he is setting things up. Okay. So it says, and then shall the wicked be revealed, all right, which is now, okay, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. All right. So the wicked are being revealed now. Okay. And that's a big thing. Okay. And who is doing most of the revealing of the wicked? All right. Of course, the Israelites. All right. Okay. The Lord's prophets. These are the ones or we are the ones that's revealing who the wicked is. All right. Because it seems like everybody else is pretty much on board and in league with the wicked. All right. And in many cases, you got individuals who justify the wicked. All right. And they don't point out the evils that they are doing. All right. But, of course, that's our job. It says, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth. All right. And who is the spirit of his mouth? His prophets, his men. Okay. All right. And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Because at his coming, all right, he's going to do away with the wicked and the evil that's been shed in the earth. All right. And the main proprietors, all right, or the main people that's pushing wickedness, all right, is a so-called white man who we identify as Esau, Edom. Okay. All right. So now that we established that, let's kind of continue on. Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. We read this all the time. All right. But these are main identifiers to understand where we at in space and time. All right. So the scriptures is telling us that what the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Okay. Why? Because ultimately, the ones that are supposed to be rightfully ruling the earth, we have transgressed. All right. And we've been given into the hand of the wicked, as the scriptures go into. All right. And so the world it's like a big detour. The world is actually waiting on the righteous to be put in place. Because why? People are mourning, as the scriptures go into in Proverbs. When the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. When the righteous and the just rule, people rejoice, roughly paraphrasing. All right. And we're at a time and place where people are mourning. All right. The earth is mourning itself. Okay. And the scriptures are letting us know what's going on. So it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So it's a question. All right. But that question can be answered. All right. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. Who has covered the faces of the judges? Who are the judges? All right. The Israelites. Okay. These are the judges. Okay. And who has been covering? Okay. All right. To cover some is to somewhat hide. All right. And most of the covering happened during a certain time period. All right. Which we call the Renaissance period. All right. You had what they call iconoclasts. All right. Men who pretty much introduced a new way of idealism and a new way of or standard to the earth. All right. And that was through the Renaissance period. Okay. And that took a great toll on history. All right. Okay. Because the so-called white man, what he did, all right, that's why he's known as a wicked, is because what? One of the things that he did, all right, one of his biggest exploits is deception. All right. Give me just a second. These kids way too loud. All right. So Salakia. All right. All right. And so that's one of Esau's greatest things. His greatest exploits in the world is deception. Okay. And the scriptures point that out, Revelations 20:7. These are somewhat what we can call identifiers of who's who in the scriptures. Okay. All right. Because this thing is coming to the point where it's evident. All right. And the evidence is there and is highly is clear who's who. All right. All right. Who's been doing all the lying? Okay. Who's been the ones that's been, pretty much hidden away and pushed into corners in society. Okay. All right. And we are, the Lord has put the Spirit on us to reveal all of this. Okay. So this is what I did earlier. All right. Just to make this a little bit more, a little bit more spicy. Okay. I asked Chat GPT, can you sum up the damage and tyranny Europeans have wrought in the earth? All right. Now, European, all right, is another code word for so-called white men or Edomite, mainly Edomites. All right. Because they hid that from the world as well. The nationalities that the Lord has given, all right, the descendants from Adam. Okay. And they covered it up pretty good, because the masses of the world doesn't know who's who. Okay. And that's a big problem. Okay. Because we don't know the financial, we don't know what the Lord has determined for these people, that when we read the scriptures, the wicked being destroyed, the righteous being saved, and other things. All right. Okay. And it's of course, it's our job to, pretty much show you. Okay. So it says, that's a profound and important question. All right. Here's a broad but focused summary of that. The major forms of damage and tyranny that European powers inflicted globally from the age of exploration to the modern era. Okay. And so the age of exploration is pretty much 1492, Cristobal Colon. All right. So you can pretty much, it's drawn from that point on. All right. Leading up till now. So it says here, colonialism, all right, and an empire building. And so what the understanding that you're going to get from this is you're going to be easily able to identify who the wicked is. All right. It's not some mythological entity. All right. It's not somebody that we cannot hold accountable. All right. And this is the thing. All right. We're witnesses, and Esau is going to be held accountable. Okay. So it says from the 15th to the 20th centuries, all right, European nations, Portugal, Spain, Britain, France, the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Italy, established empires across Africa, all right, the Americas, Asia, and Oceania, all right. The consequences were immense, okay, because this is the rise of Esau, Edom, okay, in the world, all right, or the rise of essentially that fourth beast, the final empire that's going to rule the earth before the Lord makes his return. All right. And the scriptures let you know, Daniel 7. Okay. And we start at 8. It says, I considered the horns. All right. And behold, there came up among them another little horn. All right. That little horn is America. All right. Before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, all right. And the 3 horns, if I'm not mistaken, is Spain, all right, France, and Britain. Okay. So Salakia. Let me go ahead and make sure. All right. So let me go to Daniel in my book. All right. Daniel 7 and 8. All right. Yep. The French, Spanish, all right, and Britain. And these are all Edomite nations. All right, by the way. Okay. So it says, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. All right. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Okay. Because basically they have the wisdom. All right. What came from them is pretty much the establishment. They were able to establish themselves. All right. Through wisdom. Okay. And the scriptures talk about them, through traffic. All right. They've gotten much riches. Okay. So moving on, verse 9, it says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. All right. It says, and a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands minister unto him. All right. And 10,000 times 10,000. All right. Stood before him. The judgment was set and the books were open. All right. I beheld then, because the voice of the great words which the horn spake. That's America. All right. Because they're speaking great words. All right. And part of them, the words which they're speaking is the fourth industrial revolution, transhumanism. They're going to bring the world into an age of essentially immortality through technology, so on and so forth. Okay. It says, I beheld even till the beast was slain. All right. Because this is the ultimate judgment. All right. For all the things that these Edomites have wrought in the earth, and all their works in the earth, well, it has how can I say? I said, well, I can use the scripture in Job, the 14th chapter. You know, the Lord has set the bounds, all right, so that he cannot pass. All right, every empire has essentially a due date, all right, or a boundary set to where it's not going to, you know, it's going to cease from existing. All right. And the Lord's intent was always to set up his everlasting kingdom upon the earth. All right. And the only one that's in the way, all right, is this last beast, all right, that we're dealing with. Okay. This is last rulership, this last empire. Okay. It says, I beheld even till the beast was slain. All right. And his body destroyed and given to the burning flame, because her ultimate end is what? By way of thermonuclear fire. And that's a big thing. Okay. The way this place is going out is everything is being set up for this place to, you know, be destroyed right now. Okay. And now, I mean, when you go through all this information, all right, and the finality of it is that the Lord has this determined for the final rulership, all right, in the earth by mankind, okay, and mainly the wicked, okay, or more precisely the wicked. It says, as concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, of course, all right. That's the Babylonian, Medo-Persian, Greek, Roman Empire, all right. Yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time, okay. So let's go back here, all right. And it says here, it points out land seizure, all right. So I'll read this again. It says, from the 15th to the 20th century, all right, European nations, Portugal, Spain, Britain, France, the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Italy established empires across Africa, the Americas, Asia, and Oceania. All right. The consequences were immense. Okay. And that's that fourth beast that we just read about. Okay. So land seizure. All right. Indigenous people were displaced from ancestral lands. And what the scriptures say about that? Okay. You're not supposed to remove anyone, all right, from their homeland. All right. Okay. You're not supposed to take here. Let me see, because the scripture's talking about. All right. It clearly tells you that you're not supposed to remove anyone. All right. Or deal with their land in a certain way. I don't know why it didn't come to me. Remove landmark. All right. So, and this is in the law. Okay. Deuteronomy 19:14, it says, thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark, which they of old time have set in thine inheritance. All right. Which thou shalt. Oh, let's go into something that's more. Okay. Here we go. Deuteronomy 27:17, it says, cursed be he that removeth his neighbor's landmark, and all the people shall say amen. All right. Job 24:2, it says, some remove landmarks, they violently take away flocks and feed thereof. And who's been doing that? as of late, the so-called white man. But the law clearly tells you, all right, what you're not supposed to do. Okay. And what has Esau, the so-called white man, been doing? Well, he's been doing the opposite of what the scriptures is doing. Okay. And what you find out is that what Esau has mass-produced wickedness all over the earth. Okay. And put up a perverse standard, which is completely opposite to the Most High Yahweh Shem Shai's laws. Okay. And this is the reason in which he's going to be taken out from rulership. Okay. That's why this place is not going to be part of this reason why this place is not going to be healed is because they're not fixing. They'll never be able to fix their habits, for lack of better words. They'll never be able. Their continual exploits, all right, has been the same thing: rape, rob, plunder, murder. All right, and it's not changing. Okay, even with this dawn of a new age that they're trying to go into, the fourth industrial revolution, it calls for the massive unaliving of the people on earth. Okay, and that's in their Georgia Guidestones. That's in their law. Okay, so this is Psalms 50 and 16. All right, because one of the things that they do is that they'll use the Bible to essentially, and hell, they. I'm thinking about what they're doing in the Gaza Strip, but let me see. Let me read the scripture and I make the point. All right. So Psalms 50 and 16. But unto the wicked, the Most High said, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? All right. And for the longest, all right, Esau has been perpetrating as if they're Christians. All right. And as if they're God fearing. All right. And everything that they every right that they have. All right. Is from the Most High himself. OK. And they say it out of their own mouths, but they're completely doing the opposite of what the instructions that the Bible leave you. All right. And that's why they're going to be judged according to the laws written in the Bible, because they took on this standard. All right. And they've been basically abusing these laws with under the guise of, they have been given the authority by God himself, perpetrating that they're, the saints. Okay. Especially now. Okay. And they're using even now, that dude, Benjamin Benjamin Yahoo. All right. He's using the Bible to justify, okay, the slaughtering or the G side. All right. Okay. Right now, they're in Israel. Okay. Because they're talking about a greater Israel and all of this other stuff. Okay. It says verse 17, saying, thou hatest instruction and castest my word behind thee. When thou sawest a thief, then thou consentest with him, and has been partaker with adulterers. All right. Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue frameth deceit. And that's the so-called white man. All right. And he's been doing this for the longest. Okay. So let's go back. All right. It's exploitation of resources. Colonies were stripped of raw materials. And mind you, again, this is dealing with the contribution that the so-called white man had toward the earth since the age of exploration. That's 1492 up until now. All right. So it says exploitation of resources. Colonies were stripped of raw materials, gold, rubber, cotton, spices, oil, for European profit. So you can replace this word with Edomite. All right. Or Edomite meaning so-called white. Okay. Because that's what they called themselves. They identified themselves as white. Okay. Which is really, it's just a play on words. Okay. And they made that term up a few hundred years back. All right. So it says destruction of local economies. European trade policies often dismantled self-sufficient systems and impose dependency. All right. And this is, this is pretty much, it smacks that dude, Matt Walsh, right in the face with his whole, we took the world out of the dark ages and brought in this industrial age and made the world a better place. It's just a bunch of bullcrap because it's just not true. All right. You dismantle self-sufficient systems and impose dependency. And that's all the so-called white man always, that's what his system is based on. All right. Is making others dependent on him. Okay. Because he has to be the center of everything. All right. It's this imposition of borders, arbitrary borders drawn by Europeans, Edomites, especially in Africa, cause long-term ethnic and political conflicts. All right. And you had that apartheid that happened in South Africa. Okay. So Gino, all right, CIDE. Okay. Because we only say that because certain words we're using, they're going to start taking videos down again. All right. Slavery and human exploitation. All right. This is the contribution that the so-called white man had. All right. In the world. And these are the most heinous crimes. So it's not hard to see who's the evil one. It's not hard to see who's the devil that the Bible is speaking of. Because as the scriptures say, John 10:10, the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. But the Lord said, I am come that they might have life. All right. And keep this in mind, because we're going to kind of bring that back to Yahushua and how he's going to end this kingdom of death on earth and the wicked ones. All right. Because now Esau, he's the perpetrator of sin. Okay. He influences everyone on earth to be essentially to go against the Most High. And nobody has done this ever in history except for when the so-called white man came. All right. It says, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. And this is what we're asking for. This is all that we're asking for, to have life here on earth more abundantly. Because now we're being cornered in societies and ultimately they want to tell us when and what and how we can do things. All right. And limit, all right, us in the earth. Okay. And limit us in God, in the Most High Yahweh Shemiah's creation. Okay. And they're basically creating a system to where they can only benefit from the creation when the Lord freely gave it to us in the first place to maintain. Okay. And for all of us to exist in. All right. And this is what Esau is doing now. He's taking on this. Now he is God. And now he's going to limit, be able to tell you how much you can benefit or how much you're able to, thrive in society. Okay. All right. With these different systems that he's bringing in. So when the first bullet point is transatlantic slave trade. All right. From the 15th to 19th centuries. That's over 400 years. All right. Okay. This is over 12 million so-called Africans. But those are Israelites were forcibly taken to the Americas. All right. And how we know it's talking about Israelites, because there's a prophecy dealing with it, right? Which a lot of you Christians get mad when we bring this up, okay? Because it points directly to who we are, okay? And through the Spirit, all right, not by no DNA, through God's Spirit, through His Word, we are finally woken up to who we are, and now we're being drawn back by the Word. We're being brought back, as the Scriptures deal with, by this Word, okay? So Deuteronomy 28:68, it says, and the Lord shall bring thee again and thee into Egypt again with ships. All right. And we already know, okay, that the Israelites didn't go back into Egypt again with ships. Okay. Because it's really impossible. And it really makes no sense for them to go back into Egypt again with ships. All right. This is code. Okay. Because code for what? Egypt meaning bondage. Okay. So again, with ships, all right. And how did the Israelites get put back in bondage with ships? All right, the transatlantic slave trade. It says, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies, all right, for bondmen and bondwomen, okay? And no man shall buy you. Now the Christians, all right, they get so riled up when it goes into they shall buy you, all right? They say, the Christians say that, oh, no man is going to buy the slaves. Basically, that's what they're saying. No man bought you. But that's not what it's saying. It says no man, basically the word here for buy is redeem, okay? Meaning that we're not going to be saved, all right? In other words, okay? So bond men and bond women, that's a slave man and a slave woman. And it says ye shall be sold, okay? But why would it say, and no man shall buy you, right? That it won't make sense, right? Unless you put the proper understanding to it, all right? And the word for buy here is quana, okay? It says here to get, acquire, create, buy, possess, all right? Let's see here. Here, and this is, it doesn't have a primitive root, so this is the primitive root. So it says, I'll read up here. It says a primitive root to erect, i.e. create, by extension to procure, especially by purchase, causatively, all right, sell, by implication to own, attain, buyer, all right, and the Lord is the buyer, basically. And that's what the prophecy is, that no one is going to save you from the situation, basically. To teach, to keep cattle, get, provoke to jealousy, possess, or purchase, recover, redeem. All right. So the word here, redeem. So, and then we can use this one too, recover. So basically, no one was going to save us from the situation, from going into slavery. All right. So the word here, redeem. Oh, not edamon. All right. The word here for redeem. Okay. It's a lot for the background noise too. It says to buy back. All right. To buy back. All right. Or ransom, recover by purchase. You see, so nobody was going to buy us out of the situation or save us from the situation. Also, in a theological sense, deliver from sin and spiritual death. All right. Because this America, when we came to America, what did we fall into? All right. More sin and spiritual death. Revelations, the 11th chapter. All right. Goes into our dead bodies. All right. Shall lie in the great city. That great city is America. Okay. And the spiritual death is us falling from essentially grace, falling from our position in the world. All right. So that's what that means. So let's go back. All right. Before we get too lost in the sauce. So it says here, it says transatlantic slave trade, 15th to the 19th centuries, over 12 million Israelites were forcibly taken to the Americas. Millions died during transport or in brutal plantation systems. Okay. Genocide of indigenous peoples. All right. That's the Northern Kingdom. All right. The Israelites who were already here in America. All right. And you know them as the Native Americans, the so-called Native Americans, the so-called Mexicans, the so-called Seminole Indians. All right. All right. So it says the Americas, all right, massive population loss due to disease. So the so-called white man brought disease, right? It says warfare and cultural. It says in cultural eradication. All right. Give me a second. All right. So Salaki. So it says Australia. It says Aboriginal populations. All right. Decimated by settler violence and state policies. All right. And that's dealing with Japheth. Okay. All right. Forced labor systems. Congo under Belgian King Leopold II. Millions died due to forced rubber extraction. British and French colonies. Massive use of indentured or coerced labor. All right. And so this is Esau's Edom imprint on the world. This is his, what they would call a carbon footprint. All right. This is what he contributed to society. All right. But he's puffed up with this, he believes his own bullshit that he is taking the world out of the dark ages. But what as it says here, the America's massive population loss due to disease, warfare, and cultural eradication. All right. So what was so good about that? All right. You got these Edomites parading around and all happy because, in reality, there ain't nothing to be happy about. Okay. Here we go. And this is a good one here. It says cultural erasure and racist ideologies. All right. Christianization and assimilation. All right. Indigenous belief systems were often outlawed or wiped out. All right. Why? Due to Christianization. Okay. And so a lot of you want to still ride under this banner, but these Christians, all right, okay, they did a lot of evil and wicked things to the tribes. Okay. Here, I wanted to get this too, Salaki. Jeremiah 51 and 33. All right. Here. It's 50. Okay, 50 and 33. I'm going to come back to this. Let me finish on here. All right. There's a lot of distractions going on. And so bullet point 2, it says destruction of languages and traditions. Indigenous knowledge, customs, and languages were actively suppressed. Okay. It says scientific racism and white supremacy. All right. Pseudoscientific justifications. All right. Which they're trying to use again today. All right. With the ploy, all right, of saying that you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are more violent in nature, and that they basically, there is a call for them to bring in certain measures, to eradicate and tackle the problem of violent offenders. And what is that? Mainly is going to be, probably deportation. All right. And in the locking, I don't know, I have to get a good term to use, but putting a lot of people away into the prison systems. All right. However it may be an internment camp. All right. Or it might be a prison off site. All right. Or a black site, whatever, Okay, so pseudoscientific justifications for European superiority justified slavery, segregation, and colonization. All right, and so this is really heinous. All right, and people don't understand the psychological effect that it has on others, and that's the thing. Esau don't care about nobody else but his damn self. All right, they don't care how you Israelites feel. Okay. They don't care how the world has felt concerning their actions toward the people in the world. All right. And here it explains it here. It says, why is earth and ashes proud? Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, verse 9. There's not, you know what? Let me start at 8. Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. All right. So there's the reason. I mean, that the reason why this place is going out. All right. Is because what these people that have been in rulership, they ain't been doing what's right. They ain't been, they haven't been doing right by the mainly the Most High in his laws. All right. Which are a universal law, is a perfect law. Right. And they ain't been doing right by, of course, his people. OK. So that's why America is going to be destroyed, okay, because of all the evil that it has wrought in the earth. Verse 9, why is earth and ashes proud? There's not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. All right. And when you deal with a covetous man, it's a man that's jealous, or a man that here, just let that speak. Okay. Covetous here in the Edamon Online, it says inordinately desirous to obtain and possess, avaricious. All right. So to obtain and possess what? Anybody else's resources or anything that anyone else's else has. All right. This is avaricious. All right, if I'm saying that right. Okay. It says desirous, covetous. Okay. Here it goes on to say passionate desire, eagerness, ambition. So their ambition and they had eagerness to what? To possess not only your resources, but the people themselves, you know. It says very desirous. And the scriptures say what? It says there is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. That's Esau. For such an one setteth his own soul to sell. Right. So you sold your own soul by cutting off, you know, basically taking, all right, whatever you wanted from others. All right. It says, because while he liveth, he casteth away his bowels. All right. Meaning he cast away sympathy. Okay. He cast away all emotion, all empathy. All right. To what they call apathy. All right. They had no feeling toward how they treat everybody else. And you still see it with these so-called white people. They still show that they have not a care in the world for what they have done to the people in the world. All right. And it's at a point where they're still the superior. All right. But of course, the Lord is changing that. All right. And he's bringing them down. All right. But they still have the ambitions to what? To ultimately enslave everybody. Okay. And to make it to where no one is free. Okay. To make it to where no one can enjoy the creation. All right. Okay. Because they want to continuously oppress. And there's a term for that. It's a sadism. All right. Which means they enjoy, they get pleasure off of you know, making others or they get pleasure off of others' pain. Salaki. All right. It says these ideas shape global racism and still persist. This is ChatGPT saying it still exists. All right. So wars, military occupation, and divide and rule tactics. You see? So their whole thing was to divide and conquer. All right. Because there's more than enough resources that goes that are in the earth that you know, is more than enough to go around. All right. But you're dealing with the devil, and that's why the scriptures call you the devil. All right. It says world wars, largely European in origin, but fought using colonial troops and with global consequences. Divide and rule colonizers deepen ethnic divisions to maintain control, leading to post-independence civil wars. All right, example given Rwanda, India, Pakistan. All right. And those when you research those things, man, that is very treacherous what Esau has done. It's very terrible. Okay. And he still has these nations in subjection. And you wonder why the world is still, you know, people are up, you know, there's an uproar. All right. And there's a rising up against leadership. Okay. Because these systems that Esau has placed in the world, they don't work. They never worked. They only benefited the few. All right. Well, everybody else, you know, had to live the result of the evil and the hatred. All right. It said violent repression, anti-colonial uprisings, right? E.g. Mao, example given Mau Mau in Kenya, Algerian War of Independence were met with torture, mass killings, and internment. All right. Okay. Meaning they pretty much detained them. All right. Okay. So, and not to mention you had what's the brother name? Leo Vature Tresson, okay? Because Haiti rebelled, all right, the Israelites, okay, the Levites were, pretty much rose up against Esau, and they were successful. But what was the result of that? All right, they kept Haiti, all right, a poor nation, okay, and they punished them for fighting back against tyranny, and that's how this devil operates. It's disgusting, man. All right, this is environmental destruction. Okay. All right, let me get this instead of that. All right, you gotta get this one. All right, because this clearly shows you who the wicked is. It clearly shows you. All right, from the mouth of their own instrument that they created. All right, Chat GPT. So environmental destruction. This is monoculture and extractivism. All right, destroyed biodiversity and depleted ecosystems, and that's under the rule of the so-called white men. But this is what the Lord said about those, right, who deal with the planet in such a way. Revelations 11 and 18, and the nations were angry. Why are the nations angry? Because of these systems that have been employed in the earth, right? And thy wrath is come, in the time of the dead, all right, which are the heathen nations, okay? Because this is symbolic, okay? Because the reason why these nations are dead, okay, because they fell away, all right? Their empires failed, okay? And so they're like a thing of the past, all right? But then now they're rising up again, okay? That they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, all right? Because that's what's coming. The scriptures say the Lord cometh quickly, and his reward is with him, roughly paraphrasing, okay? Because he's coming to reward his saints, who those of who shall overcome this beast, this system, all right, which is, still in existence, but now it's coming to the point where it's evolved into something more heinous, okay, which is the beast system, okay, and they're gonna bring in the fourth industrial revolution, which is the market of basically the market of beasts, the center of it, all right, which is the RFID chip, okay, because if you don't have that, then you're not going to be able to live and sustain yourself, and they're going to see to it, because they're going to have every facet, or every aspect of society locked down and gridlocked, right? It says into the saints, all right, and them that fear thy name, all right, big emphasis on that, them that fear thy name, right? Because the men of the Lord, we do have the name, all right? The Israelites do have the name. Otherwise, we wouldn't have nobody to call on to save us, okay? It says small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. And who's been doing that? All right, Esau, okay? The house, the thief. Let's see here, Slarky, okay? And this is what's going to come, okay? Because we read in Daniel's the 7th chapter, the 9th verse, that how the Lord, that he sits on a fiery throne, all right? Okay, so imagine how his son is going to come, okay? Let's see here, Zechariah 5 and 1. It says, then I turned and lifted up mine eyes, all right, and looked, and behold, a flying roll, all right? It's going to be a spaceship. That's what this is dealing with. It's dealing with a spaceship, see? And we're being scoffed at, all right, and mocked because we believe what the scriptures say, all right? We believe the breakdown, okay? It says, and he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits, okay? It says, then said he unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off, as on this side, according to it. So who is stealing? All right. Who's the biggest thief? Esau, Edom, and so-called white men. All right. And everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. Okay. All right. It says, I will bring it forth, said the Lord Yahweh of hosts of armies, and it shall enter into the house of the thief. All right. And then when you read Revelations 1:7, all right, dealing with the Lord's return, okay, the Lord is going to come in a spaceship, okay. Second Ezra, the 13th chapter goes over that, all right. And guess what? It's going to be over, and it's going to enter into the house of the thief, and that's America, okay. And it into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, okay, because what? You put yourself up, all right, as, you know, essentially God's people, all right, you're calling yourself, and you coming in the guise of, you know, Christian and all of this other stuff, all right. Well, the Lord is about to test that theory, so to speak, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. You see? Okay. So that's a big thing. All right. So let's go back. Environmental destruction. All right. Bullet point 2. It says industrial pollution. European industrial practices contributed to early global carbon emissions and environmental degradation. And now they got this thing which they call global warming. And guess who they're trying to make foot the bill for all of the carbon emissions that the industries, all right, have wrought in the earth. They're trying to make the people suffer from it. Okay. They're trying to make the people pay the tab for the pollution, for them polluting the world. You imagine that? Okay. It says land degradation, plantation systems, sugar, cotton, rubber, all right, cause soil depletion and deforestation. You see? All right, this man has destroyed the earth. And the Lord said he's going to destroy them which destroy the earth. Okay? Plain and simple. And after reading this, you should well know who the devil is and who the Bible is talking about, and literally who the Lord is about to target. Okay? And that's why we're witnessing a testimony against you, so-called Edom, you white people, which are Edomites. Okay. Okay. And so the last thing for you to do is try to murder us. And that's going to be a witness against you in itself. Okay. It says legacy of inequality and underdevelopment. Okay. And this is why the so-called Negro, all right, doesn't fare well in society. This is why they're violent in society. Okay. It's truly because of your mismanagement, okay, of property, because we were your property, okay? So you got a legacy of inequality and underdevelopment, okay? Many formerly colonized countries still suffer from underdeveloped infrastructure by design, right? They keep them much like Haiti, okay? The Levites, okay? Right, because they still are suffering, all right, when they can live off the land and they could be a completely thriving people. So why is there poverty? Because it's by design. All right, because if they wanted to, everybody could fare well in the world, but they need to have this superiority. They need to feel above everybody else. All right, it says colonies were built for extraction, not development. Economic dependency on former colonizers or global capital shaped by colonial era trade patterns. All right. And it plays out today. All right. Okay. You got the welfare system. You got, them putting the woman on a pedestal in society. They give more rights to women. The father don't even own his children. Okay. The father has absolutely no rights. The court systems, they pretty much acknowledge the woman, and they rule in favor of the woman right away. Okay. And it's under the guise of, protecting them, but whole time they're exploiting them. All right. So they can do away with, essentially the protection that's needed to guide and to lead communities and to guide and to keep society thriving. All right. You take the men out of the way and you let the woman rule. All right. And we see so far how much that's playing a role in today. All right. This is political instability rooted in colonial governance structures and power vacuums post independence. This is not a condemnation of all European people, but a recognition of historical truths that have shaped the modern world. All right. So you wonder why the world will never be, or you wondering why the world is not faring well. You're wondering why the world is not a better place. Okay. It's because of the systems that have been put into place for exploitation to keep essentially the so-called white men on top and everybody else in a dependent state. All right. Well, the Lord is going to get rid of all of that. All right. And all this society has done is push a death culture. All right. And this is what the scriptures say. Right. Wisdom of Solomon 1:13. And I'm a few more precepts, but I'll close out. This might be the last one. It says, for the Most High made not death, neither hath he pleasure in the destruction of the living. But Esau sure does. Esau sure he has pleasure in the destruction of the living, because this is one of his exploits, one of his main tools, one of his main his ambitions on earth. All right, it's to destroy. He finds different ways to destroy the living. Okay, through water, through poisoning the water. All right, which is basically biochemical warfare. Right, and then you got them poisoning the minds, which is psychological warfare. All right. So Esau's expertise is essentially, that's why we call him Satan. He come in the power of Satan, as the scriptures say. All right, because he is the adversary. All right, he is perverse. He is completely opposite of the Lord. Okay. Well, watch this. It says, for he created all things that they might have their being. Period, point blank. The Lord created, his creation is to live, to thrive. That's what he created everything for. But this devil is in the way of that. The so-called white man is in the way of people living, all right, to their fullest potential. He's in the way of people living, loving, all right. This devil, and this is why he has to be taken out of the way, because he is a physician of no value. Okay. Sirach 10:10 or Ecclesiasticus 10:10, the physician cutteth off a long disease, and he that is today a king tomorrow shall die. Why? Because we have no use for you. And the only use that you really were here for is to punish, all right, the children of the Most High. Okay? Because we are the true inheritors of this world that are supposed to be running the world a certain way to where mankind, all right, and animal kind, whatever you want to call it, can thrive. All right. So ecosystems can thrive. Okay. This man is making it to where you cannot thrive in the world no more. All right. For when a man is dead, he shall inherit creeping things, beasts, and worms. All right. That's waiting on you, Esau. The beginning of pride is when one departed from God and his heart is turned away from his maker. That's Esau. That's why the scriptures say the wicked are estranged from the womb. All right. When you go into that word estranged, it means to be, literally it goes into being hostile towards the nurturing or nature. All right. And that's what Esau is. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that hath it shall pour out abomination. All right. And therefore the Lord brought upon them strange calamities and overthrew them utterly. And that's what's happening. That's about to happen to Esau. The Lord hath cast down the thrones of the proud princes and set up the meek in their stead. And so what's going to happen? The meek shall inherit the earth, as Matthew 5 goes into. All right. And those that yearn for righteousness, we're going to be filled with righteousness. All right. We're going to be filled with all of these things. Because what? All right. Here, I don't know why I was doing this. Let's do this. All right. Here we go. So Sirach 10 or Ecclesiastes 10 and 4 says the power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. So we need those that are profitable in the earth, those that's going to live going to live up to the standard, all right, in which the Lord has set up. And that's why what the law shall go forth from Zion, because the elect, the nation of Israel, right, the elected the nation of Israel, the 144,000, these are going to be the main proprietors of all things good in the earth. They're going to be pushing this law, all right, this eternal law, all right. So in the hand of the Most High is prosperity of man, is the prosperity of man, and upon the person of the scribe shall he lay his honor. All right. And that's going to be the righteous. So going back to Wisdom of Solomon 1:14, for he created all things that they might have their being. He didn't create everything to destroy it or to be destroyed. And in fact, he created man to be immortal. All right. It says, in the generations of the world were healthful, right? And there is no poison of destruction in them, nor the kingdom of death upon the earth. Now, do we see that with Esau in his reign? What we see is the kingdom of death in the earth. Okay? What we see is the kingdom of death in the earth. And he's going to continue to perpetuate this till all is gone. That's why the Lord has to shorten the time. Because if he don't, as the scriptures say, all flesh is going to perish. All right? Okay, so let me give one more precept. Oh, 1 John. All right. 1 John 3 and 8. Okay. Because now Esau, you are the main engine that pushes sin. You are the main one that's pushing evil, okay, and transgression in the earth. All right. Is one of your greatest exploitations in the world. Okay. So 1 John 3 and 8, it says, he that committeth sin is of the devil. For the devil sinneth from the beginning. Okay. Devil meaning deceiver. Okay. And this has been essentially a long time coming. This has been a perpetual thing. You know, and starting in the garden. All right. With the serpent. And that serpent was a people. Okay. Who have spread their poison. All right. And pretty much destroyed, all right, mankind. All right. And he had a helping hand in destroying mankind. All right. Even though Adam sinned, the accountability went straight to Adam. But does that mean that this, you know, his seed is not going to be punished? You know, shall he altogether go unpunished? Hell no. All right. It says, for the devil sinned from the beginning. It says, for this purpose, the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. And what are the works of the devil? All right. The kingdom of death. All right. Because the Lord's intention and his purpose was not for there to be a kingdom of death, but it is a kingdom of death on earth now. Now the Lord has to remove you. And this was his whole purpose in the first place, to abolish death. All right. To get the victory over death. Okay. So that's pretty much all my time, you know. Hey, the water, bro. All right. Yeah, and I definitely got to read these precepts. So Shalom too, you know. So this is Luke 12 and 2. I'm gonna read these precepts and I'm gonna close out. It says, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. And this is obvious that, all right, that the so-called white man is the devil, all right, and his exploits and the things that he's done in the world, all right, it proves who he is. So you can't cover this, man, all right. It says, therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in the darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which ye have spoken in the ear in closets shall be proclaimed upon the housetops. That's why this devil can't hide in any way, shape, or form, because everything he's done in secrecy has come to the light. All right. It says reveal. It says the word for reveal, it says make previously unknown or secret information known to others. And guess what? We know all the information, all right, through the Spirit. All right. So it says here, Obadiah 1:10, for the violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. All right. And so that is the repercussion, all right, of what he wrought in the earth. And rightfully so. You're going to be cut off. So you, as Isaiah 14:21 goes into, the Lord's going to cut off their whole line. All right. He's going to cut them off from being in the earth, to be roaming in the earth freely, doing whatever they want. And they're going to go straight into captivity. And no one of them is going to escape. All right. The word for degradation, or the definition for degradation, the condition of, or process of degrading or being degraded. Yeah. Sirach, and we just read Sirach, but I'll read verse 3. All right. Yep. And that's right, man. You know, this devil got a lot to pay for, man, more than he knows. And they haven't considered the latter end neither. All right. And that's why I always say, man, if you thought that we had to be afraid of anything, well, you mistaken. Really, this devil is in fear. He should be in fear. All right. And in fact, he is in fear. Okay. Because this devil, these Edomites, man, they got a lot to pay for. And who gonna save them? All right. When the Lord comes. And that's what you really got to look at. Who gonna save them when the Lord comes? You see? Ain't nobody gonna save them, man. And that's gonna be a terrible thing, man. You know? So we don't care how Esau come. He's gonna come, whatever. Do what you do. But who gonna save you? All right? Who's gonna save you from the Lord, man? Nobody. All right. And that's gonna be a terrible fucking thing in the future world to come. Because they ain't gonna have nobody to be able to stand up for them. All right. They ain't gonna have nobody to save them. They ain't gonna have nobody to plead or to be to intercess for them. Because it's over for you. All right. Okay. All right. Revelations 11:11, it says, and after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from the Most High entered into them. All right. And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. That's right. Okay. And Esau, this is what Esau's been dreading for the longest. All right. Us receiving this truth. That's why it's such a big pushback. All right. Because now when we've risen, we accelerated prophecy. We accelerated the time the Lord's coming. All right. And the scriptures say that he was going to shorten the time for the elect's sake. Okay. Because his intention is to what? To revenge the elect, his elect. All right. Okay. So with that, hey, Lord willing, this is edifying. Till next time, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shemi Shai, Bashim Kakodash, double honors to our apostles, elders at Great Millstone. Shalom to you, Akim, again, man. Until next time, I'll give all praises. Shalom.